I'm José Barradas from DG Move Policy Officer working on FuelEU Maritime implementation.
So Jose, how will suppliers outside the EU demonstrate compliance with identical sustainability standards when bunkering begins under the Union database in January 2026?
For the time being, the bunkering outside Europe needs to follow the same approach as under the EU, meaning they need to certify through the certification schemes, but at the moment it's a paperwork. So from 2026, the system will be improved through the Union database system and a fully digital system, and then the traceability will be through the Union database. That will be an improvement. But at the moment, they already can do it through the certification schemes under the RED, but it is through the paperwork. In 2026, the system will be improved for a digitalized database.
Can shipping finance overcome taxonomy's design phase versus operational phase paradox, or will this administrative burden continue limiting green investment flows?
There are different perspectives on how this should be done. Shipping companies is claiming for a well-to-wake approach, but financing institutions is claiming that this is a burden and difficult for them to finance. A compromise will be discussed and reached. There will be an interim solution through the next years, but then we expect that in the midterm we can follow a full well-to-wake approach even for the financing of green shipping.
If member states block the IMO framework during the 10-month review, does the EU proceed unilaterally with FuelEU IMO alignment or await MEPC 86 in 2027?
If there is no agreement under the IMO, the EU will maintain their objectives and their policies to achieve a fully decarbonized shipping and to achieve the targets under the EU regulation. We see this as ongoing discussions. We hope that the IMO Net Zero framework is adopted, but if at this stage we cannot progress further at the IMO, we will also continue the discussions trying to achieve a global IMO measure to decarbonize shipping.
How does the EU justify targeting only 5,000 plus GT vessels when smaller segments collectively contribute significant emissions excluded from current ETS FuelEU scope?
Recently, the European Commission released a report in March this year that it reveals that the ships below 5,000 gross tonnage represent 40% of the ships, but only 10% of the emissions. This means that extending the scope will cover a high number of ships, but in terms of number of the emissions is quite low. So we are still studying exactly if we should or not extend the scope. If it is extended, if it should cover all ship types or dedicated ship types that have the higher level of emissions, but this is based on the report and studies that we are developing.
With more than 7,000 ships proactively reporting beyond the 13,000 requirement, what incentives exist to maintain this voluntary compliance as regulatory complexity increases?
Basically, shipping companies want to ensure that their operational is not stopped by a port state control. So they want to make it compliant with the FuelEU, even if they are not coming to Europe, by getting a document of compliance that then can easily demonstrate that they are compliant with FuelEU Maritime. They are also using the compliance to make sure that if they are using sustainable fuel that is not required for FuelEU, that they can use on the voluntary market. But this also shows that the shipping companies are fully or they are committed for decarbonization and compliant with EU regulations, with its a very good approach, and we see it as a very welcoming approach, and we are working together with the stakeholders for the implementation of FuelEU.